In the studio, it is Dr. Carey Wright, Superintendent of Education. And are we there? Everything okay, Perez? And Pete is there in his obligatory pink shirt. Good morning, Pete. How are you? It's good to have you.
I wouldn't talk, Mr. Gallo.
I'm good.
Sorry.
I'm good, Paul. How are you?
It's good. Good to have you, and I thank you very, very much. Good, day by day, and I miss not being there with you in that studio.
No, we miss you.
Well, sad news, but not that I knew it was coming because I could see it in your eyes in the last few interviews. Every time you talked about the grandkids.
I know.
Tell me, and we have a short segment here,
Sure.
but just to what made the final decision here, or is this just something that you had planned for a long time?
Well, no, I haven't planned it for a long time. My girls, are both in Maryland, and my grandson will be 3 in June, and my youngest daughter's getting married in September. And, they've been saying, Mom, when are you coming back? When are you coming back, Mom? So, and Paul, having grandchildren, there's something about... There's something magical about that, and
Absolutely.
I am the only grandparent that he has, so that kind of played into it a little bit more. He does not have grandparents on either side; it's just me. So I know how important my parents were to my children when they were growing up, and felt that it was time for me to be able to give back and be that for him.
How many years have you been here?
8.5. Came in November of 13.
In the world of Department of Education superintendents, that is pretty good, isn't it?
Yeah, I believe I'm the longest serving, actually. And also across the nation, I'm the second longest serving right currently. The superintendent in North Dakota has got me by about 6 or 7 months, but so that's...
Well, and it's to be honest with you, it's taken every bit of that time to whip Pete and Jake.
I'm still working on that, Paul.
No, I got to tell you, it's been a great relationship because over the years, especially in the first few years, when we get through with an interview, it was... You were too tough on that poor lady. You SOBs. And the next one would be, you were too soft on her. It's a shame. Why didn't you ask her this and that one? Uh-huh. And over the years, I've thrown some stuff at you as far as, the salary. But again, if Bob is not happy with the salary, but if Bob was taking that job, he wouldn't say, well, I'll come and I'll take it, but you're paying me too much. Can you cut that down some?
Yeah.
So.
No, that's true. All of my predecessors actually made more money than I did. And so I've always thought it was interesting that this has been, I had no control over the salary. The board set the salary. I don't have a contract, so it's year to year, and you serve at the will and pleasure of the board. But it has been an absolute privilege to serve the children and the teachers and leaders of the state.
And I want to talk about some of that, too, because in the 8+ years, we have seen a lot of advancement. Thank God, with the help of Republican leadership.
Absolutely.
And there were some things in there too that I've taxed you on. Some of these contracts that some of the ones that didn't pan out, and you've always been upfront and answer those questions.
Absolutely.
And the thing that I've admired about you is you haven't whined about it. Called me an SOB, walked out of the green room.
No, I actually keep coming back on your show.
Yeah, and for that I was tremendously surprised. But I knew we had a good guest after that, and I appreciate it so very, very much.
Oh, thank you.
There are some people who wouldn't do that, and the first interview was the exit interview. I never saw him again. But I do, when we come back, I want to talk about the things that you're the proudest of, and exactly what you would like to see the state continue to do, because forevermore you will have a piece of Mississippi within your DNA.
Yes, indeed.
And I hope most of that is good from the people that you've served here.
Very much so, Paul.
The tenure on this one, or the date to leave on this one, is what, June? Or
June 30. Yes, sir.
When's the exit? When does the U-Haul man show up?
June 30.
There is no U-Haul, man.
There is no U-Haul. Unfortunately, I think it's called
truck.
Carey Wright and Friends. That's right.
Two Pete's in a truck.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right.
Pete, your thought about the last day? Well, you came in You were there.
Yeah, I was
you
there
were,
just a couple of years before.
Oh, yeah, you suffered the wrath of Hank Bounds, didn't you?
I was there for a little while with Hank and then Dr. Burnham and then two interims and then now and Dr. Wright. And, it's bittersweet. She's come in and really raised the expectations of the state. Superintendents begrudgingly got on board and really realized what we could accomplish together. Students and parents all engaged, and you can see it nationally. I mean, we talk about it all the time. We come on your show when we go to these conferences or meetings nationally, how everybody wants to get a piece of Mississippi. In fact, Dr. Wright leaves again tomorrow, going back to Alaska with our literacy team. And Alaska's we're gonna put together their first literacy summit.
How about that?
Yeah.
Where in Alaska?
Anchorage.
In Anchorage.
Yeah, they had. Pete and I went last year and testified before the House and the Senate ed committees, and met with all the superintendents, and they are implementing the science of reading statewide and are hosting their very first reading summit. And so they reached out to me to keynote and would love for our literacy team to come and do a lot of the presentation. So there you go. So there's about 8 of us going.
I was reading a story earlier, and I didn't print it out because it was long and lengthy, and I didn't have time to edit it. But it basically was putting a lot of skepticism, and it was parents should be worried about distance learning because distance learning is not where it needs to be, either on the IHL level or K through 12. There's a lot of weaknesses in there, and if you have to do it during periods of time, but this was centering mostly on college kids. What kind of education were they actually getting as far as distance learning? And speak to that, because you've had, and every superintendent who's been in office now through this pandemic has got a degree in that.
Yeah, right. Well, I tell you, it works. For some kids, it worked really well. And I've had superintendents say that there were some kids that really thrived. They needed the... particularly, I was thinking about what superintendent shared, that he had a couple of high schoolers that were just constantly getting in trouble, and he found that these kids' grades just started to really climb, and the kids really started getting more acclimated to the whole idea of distance learning. Where we found it really struggled the most was our little ones, because when you're talking about K through 3 and you're talking about teaching children to read and, just the whole idea of decoding words and how words, phonics and things of that nature, being able to see a teacher in person and watch a teacher's lips and watch a teacher's mouth, and it was a lot. That's where we found that more children struggled with the little ones. Yeah,
and I think psychologists are going to be pulling this back and examining it over the years. But what a mask did that exacerbated that problem.
Yeah, and I also
think you couldn't see the lips.
Yeah, that's true. And I also think the isolationism of all of that really impacted children's mental health. We're hearing a lot about that now coming out of the pandemic, about the number of children and adults, quite frankly, that are suffering from mental health issues from just being isolated.
Where do you think we are here as the state of Mississippi, being the state superintendent of education, coming out of the pandemic back into the classroom, and how much it's damaged the learning ability of our kids?
Actually, I think we're in a lot better shape than some of our other states. In fact, the teachers would agree with that. I think my teacher advisory council will tell you that as well. I think that everybody's now back in person. And so, with our latest test results that came out last spring, for a state, to think about the last time we had tested was in 19, and to think that as a state we only dropped 6.5 points in literacy, that speaks volumes about the foundation that's been laid out there by our teachers. So I think they feel like that we're in a better position than other states are, and I can tell you that people are pushing hard out there. We're in our assessment season. That's going to finalize around the third week in May. We'll get our results back late June, early July. And this will really be a real test of where we've come from 21 to 22. And I'm anxious to see what those results look like.
These kids have stressed out over this testing. It's unbelievable. And I know you and I have gone over this and round as far as testing is concerned with your dear friend Tom Miles and others in the state legislature. But I want you to talk to that also when we come back. Also, the record pay teacher pay.
Yes.
You'll be leaving
Yes.
with the teachers in Mississippi
Yes.
With a record pay and literally millions upon millions of dollars that are targeted now
Yep.
toward broadband
Yep.
in the most rural areas of our state.
Absolutely.
Some topics that we will cover with Dr. Carey Wright and Pete Smith. Back with more coming up next. Linder, live from the Trustmark Studios. It is Dr. Carey Wright and Pete Smith with us this morning. Well, no, I do want to ask you about this, though. You'll be leaving with an incredible session that just passed to give the teachers a record pay increase that will bring them up to near the average, or in some cases, better than some other southern states.
Actually, I think we have I think ours is the leading southern.
Yeah.
I think we're above the southern average. Yeah.
Southeastern average,
And
yeah.
then,
Southeastern average.
Yeah,
Plus, when you put the cost of living in there, it's even
Oh,
more.
absolutely. Absolutely. It was so well deserved. I mean, these teachers, any teacher deserves a pay raise. What the teachers have been through, particularly over these past 2 years, is just nothing short of heroic. And they've just really invested so much of themselves into it. And we've lost, I think, teachers to surrounding states because they can make more money.
Yeah.
And so this has been well deserved.
Do you think this is resonating with some of those people who have moved on, or maybe decided to retire a little bit earlier, or just get out of the profession?
Yeah, I think it's going to entice
Have
some
you
people
seen
to
that
stay
at the
there.
office? I mean, a little bit of the feedback.
Well, the feedback that I've gotten from the teachers, I think that even during the pandemic, quite honestly, there were teachers that, I think they just love their job and they love what they're doing. And now to be compensated for it at a rate that's above the southern average, I think is overdue.
Let's talk about broadband, because that was a lot. There is a lot of money. We had Sally Doty on the other day, and Sally's going to be kind of coordinating this in her new office that the governor appointed her to. And there are literally millions upon millions of dollars to do this. And hopefully by the time maybe you come back for a visit or something, we will be up and running with the best broadband state in the nation.
Yeah, that's the key, because as many rural parts of our state as exist, that is exactly what's needed, and needed not just for school, but simply just to connect to the world. I mean, I think that's a part of what we don't think about a lot. I mean, we take it for granted that we have internet, and we take it for granted that our phones always connect, et cetera, et cetera. But I think this is a great way for all of our state to be truly connected, not only to us but to the world.
Let me do this, because I want to make sure that you're close enough to June that you could probably answer this. I'm trying to figure out how to phrase this without you leaving through the green room. No, but seriously, with the expertise that you have, and I know you love the state now, you have been bonded to the state
Yes,
in
indeed.
any way that someone from somewhere else can be. But what is your honest assessment of where we need to be now and going into the future, where you would love to see this happen?
Well, we have made great strides with early childhood, and that's something that we've got to continue to push toward. We have, our neighbor state Alabama's investments right now exceed $150 to $160 million in early childhood, and we know what.
Now, hang on. So explain this a little bit more
Sure.
so the audience can understand where this money goes and what we were
Sure.
talking about as far as early childhood.
Well, when the state first passed the Early Learning Collaborative Act in 2013, it was the first time that the state had ever invested public dollars into early childhood programming, into pre-K. And so they started out with $3 million, and we were able to open up, a handful of collaboratives with our $3 million. And then we started monitoring what I call the results on investment, return on investment. And we found that our collaboratives, those children that were coming into kindergarten, were outperforming all of their peers entering kindergarten.
Yeah.
And now we're only one of 6 states in the nation who has been recognized by the National Institute of Early Education Research of meeting all 10 of their quality indicators.
Who was the young lady we had, the doctor, she was working with Dr. Andrew Mayfield? Her name slips.
Laurie Smith?
Laurie Smith, Dr. Smith, yeah. We talked about that on the air many, many times. And again, it's one of the things that we were being noted for in Washington, D.C.
So we've got a lot of folks across the state that have really done an amazing job. We've got Jill Dent. Dr. Jill Dent leads that work in our department. And because we have shown the results, the legislature has continued to increase our funding. And this past year, we ended up with not only $8 million toward our collaboratives, but an additional $20 million toward early childhood programming. So the legislature has really done an amazing job. And when you said earlier, I really have to say, the leadership, I mean, all the way going back to Senator Tollison and John Moore and continuing with Richard Bennett and Dennis DeBar, they have been amazing ed chairs and advocates for what we have been doing and trying to do across our state. That's one thing. The other thing we're gearing up for is obviously computer science, and we had been starting with that early on. We now have some money to go behind that and a piece of legislation to go behind that. So by the year 24-25, you will have computer science K-12, and that means an hour of computer science instruction at the elementary level per week, and a course at middle school, and at least a course in high school. I would love to see us continue to move on advanced placement. We've got a lot of children that are more than capable of taking advanced placement classes, and now that we've worked with our IHLs, any child that takes an advanced placement exam and passes with a 3 or higher automatically earns 3 college credits. So that is significant. We built in work keys to our accountability model, and so that will also aid a lot of those children, our career technical children who want to choose a career versus going into college. And there's a lot of research is out there about the need to do something, whether that is a certification or 2 years or 4 years after school, in order to really be secure in a job and being successful in a job. We're expanding our career academies. We've been working very hard with the businesses across the state to make sure that if our children graduate and want to go to work immediately in one of our businesses, that they have the ability to do that. Yeah. So I think that those are the things I think that are just really critical to us. We've been continuing with our digital learning. Our coaching strategy, Paul, has been so successful. We've got coaches now in literacy, in math, special education, school improvement, our digital learning coaches, and our early childhood coaches. And those are coaches that go out and work with our teachers in order to build their capacity in each of those areas. So
I want to go back to the early child. Pete,
sure.
I want to go back to the early childhood.
Sure. Where
Alabama puts 150 to 160 million. You said how much do we put totally?
Gosh, right now, this past year we had 28 plus we had 6. If you're talking about cumulative, you need to give me a hot minute to add all that up.
Oh, cumulative, we're well over $60 or $70 million, $67 million.
Yeah. And this is, for the most part, and again, I think a lot of people didn't know this, and what percentage of daycare centers, basically, is that it, where as far as pre-K is concerned, are attached to this program?
Yeah, districts have a choice of either attaching with a Head Start or with a daycare center. And then the other part that the legislature built in, which I think is powerful, which a lot of the states around the nation have really taken a look at, is our tax credit incentive. So now local businesses have the ability to donate to their local collaborative, and they get a 1-to-1 tax credit match. Yeah. So we started out our first year with just about $275,000, and now we are well above $6 million that our local businesses are contributing.
Not 60, but 6.
6.
Okay.
Yeah.
Which means a parent, when they're looking, they're going to go on the internet. They're going to start looking, see what the accreditation is, not just to send their kids to a pre-K daycare or to just a daycare to babysit. They're going to have some structured curriculum,
absolutely
targeted for that kid.
Absolutely.
And when they get into kindergarten, they're going to be well advanced.
That's exactly right.
I think most parents, not all, but most parents understand that's going to be one of the criteria before they put their kid into one of those daycares.
Absolutely. And that's the beauty of us monitoring the data, because now we're able to really show how these collaboratives are really doing an amazing job.
What percentage of those schools, daycares, do we have on that?
I don't know the percentage of breakout by daycare, Paul. I could get back to you on that. Yeah.
But, Paul, it's also important to know that faith-based organizations can also be a part of this, too.
And some are, of course.
That's exactly right.
Yeah. Well, final thoughts from both coming up next. First of all, just your final thoughts here, and as you begin to wrap things up. And Pete, also yours. So
Great.
Well, I just have to say it's been, Paul, I mean, a true honor, a true honor to serve the state of Mississippi and the children of the state. And it's something, I'm really proud of what we've been able to accomplish. And I'm proud of the fact that we were able to raise a level of expectation about what our kids can do, because I've always been a believer that children can and will do what you tell them that they can and will do, and support them along the way. And, our kids can now, I feel like, be as competitive as any other state in the nation, because they are competing in a global economy. And if you ever had an opportunity to come to my Student Advisory Council, and I've got it this afternoon, there is such promise for the state. I've got about 100 children from across the state, and I got to tell you, Paul, they are some of the best and brightest that Mississippi has, and they are so thoughtful, and they are so smart, and they are so insightful. And so I just, that's the part that I love, the fact that we've been able to put so many programs in for children, right? Access and opportunity. And to me, that is that warms my heart each and every day when I see results come in and I see what our kids are accomplishing. And so that is that's the part for me that's the hardest. I think that I love my job and I love my family, and I just feel now that I'm in a part that this is a good time to hand off to whoever's going to take over this job, but also the next part of my life, being able to get back and enjoy my daughters and my grandson.
I understand that. I tremendously understand that. Pete?
Well, yeah, it's again, like I said, it's bittersweet. She's come in and really provided a lot for and we talk about the students and the teachers and the leaders across the state, but then the department itself, she came in and raised a level of expectation for the department. We became a more customer service friendly department. We hired a lot more professionals that actually catered to what the strategies that she was implementing and tried to do. And so you see that pay off. But I think what I'm most proud of is that the relationship in my venue that we've had with the legislature over the years.
Absolutely.
And, someone coming in new and no one not knowing them, in Mississippi.
And a northerner.
And, I told her, Paul, when she first got down here, when there was a lot of chatter about just people didn't know what to expect. I said, in Mississippi, we like to break bread with each other. So let's go have a dinner. Let's go have a meal with some of these folks and leaders, and they'll get to know you. And they did. And the things that the ideas that she brought to the legislature, a lot of them were gladly accepted and put into law, and you see the results of it. So I'm really most proud of our relationship with the legislature.
One of our greatest assets is that people above the Mason-Dixon line have such low expectation that we easily exceed those. When you come down, you see, oh man, everyone in that whole family were wearing shoes. Then we overachieve that expectation. But I mean, you really do. You look at the abilities that we have and how far we've advanced. And the other story too out there that was in the news in the past 24 hours: every state university has raised tuition again. That's in the news this morning, I think, except Jackson State. And every person who leaves college, I shouldn't say every person, but the average student who leaves college now carries a debt of $29,714. And I don't care if you're in Mississippi or Arkansas or Minnesota, this movement toward you've got to go to college, even if you're not going to take anything away, has got to change. But I think it's going to be a slow generational change to understand all of the things that are available from a good high school education and tech school going into the workforce there.
Well, and I think that's one of the reasons that we've really ramped up what we've been doing with career and technical education, because I think that's a true fact. There are children that just simply, they don't want that 2-year or 4-year university, but they do need that certification. They need something that's going to give them a livable wage. And one of the comments to what Pete just said, I really have to say, Governor Reeves has just been such a support to me and to our work, even when he was lieutenant governor. And I just just I can't say enough about the legislature writ large, about how they've continued to support. People say, well, you're not fully funding MAEP, but when you look at the amount of money that they've given the department outside of MAEP,
Yes.
and what we've been able to do with it is really speaks volumes.
Well, kind of like the legislature, when something is dead, we have something called exit interview, and if there's something else coming up, you can take advantage of the exit premium that we offer. So since it's the exit's not till June, but
Right.
anytime you want to come back beforehand or check with us in the meantime, you certainly can. We appreciate it over the
Thanks.
years. Thank you, ma'am, very
Thanks,
much.
Paul.
Pete,
I appreciate it.
you're not going to go anywhere, are you? You going to stick around for the next guy or gal there?
Well, I'm gonna stick around to see what happens, but I'll stick around to definitely bug you some more.
Well, I don't want to find out, read the paper, and all of a sudden we find out that Dr. Carey Wright is the new state superintendent of Nebraska or the University of Nebraska.
I don't think you need to worry about that, Paul.
Thank you, guys.